There we go. Well, now we are recording the session. And let's go ahead and get started and have our panelists introduce themselves and just give a little teaser about what is your best advice regarding successfully navigating a job transition. So Angela, going to go ahead and start with you.
Sure. So I'm Angela Rivera. I'm currently serving as a partner at Chartis, and I have 30 years in healthcare, most of which is related to healthcare technology and IT. And I've had 4 transitions in my career, big job company change transitions. 2 were voluntary, 2 were layoffs due to companies that may not have been performing as well as we all would hope. And my tip for starting any new transition is to not try to prove yourself right out of the gate, which is something that we naturally want to do. We want folks to really be impressed with the new person that they've hired, but to really understand and get to know your colleagues and what their roles and what they do, and bring to them some of your contributions that can help the team do better, not focus too much on yourself.
Great.
And
thank you so much, Angela. Garima, let's go to you.
Thank you, Lisa. Hi, everyone. I'm Garima Srivastava, Vice President and Associate CIO at UCSF. And I joined UCSF 18 months ago, so recently had a job transition, not too long enough, but overall I had 3 to 4 big transition in my career, apart from the smaller consulting job here and there. And it's a big thing. I worked at Stanford almost 22 years, where I get to work with Lisa and others. And after that many years, moving to UCSF was a big thing. But I will advise everyone on here is stay positive, because that can make a significant difference how you handle these transitions after a long time. Focus on your positives and remind yourself of your strengths and past successes. That's very important, because there will be setbacks, there will be some bounce back from them, and your positive thoughts will keep you motivated and move forward. So that's one of my advice. Thank you, Lisa.
Great. Thank you, Garima. Let's go to you, Christine.
Thank you, Lisa. Good afternoon. Hi, everyone. I'm Christine Yang. I'm the Chief Technology Officer at Alameda Health Systems. I been in this role for 2.5 years. Changing a job after 24 years at one company, it was a pretty scary thought. So I gone through this 2.5 years ago, and then I will share a little bit more detail later, but my, I guess, suggestions or advice will be that I gone through an exercise to essentially map out like what is my success, how drove my success in the current company, and how that translate my success in the new job. So I will certainly share some details when we get there.
Great. Thank you, Christine. And Ishal.
Hello, everyone. Ishal Erickson. I am the Executive Director of Clinical Applications in Stanford Healthcare, and I might be the, the shortest tenure in my new role in this group. So again, just full disclaimer, I will share some of my experience in the past 4 months, but I just feel it might be too premature to call it a success or not. I will defer that to my colleagues and my team members. But As I mentioned, I've been in my current role for 4 months. Before that, I worked in Stanford Children's Health. Actually, I worked with Lisa, Garima, and Christine for about almost a decade. But before that, I had multiple very actually radical job transitions. I not only from a clinical area to IT, because I'm a clinician by background, but also across countries when I moved to here. So all of them have a different flavor, and I think it is interesting to see the differences and nuances between those transitions. My teaser or tip for best practice for those, and I'm kind of bringing this up not only with my last transition, but the other transitions that I had in the past. I think as a new leader, it is really important to understand the organization and where it is when you join them as a leader, because depending on what kind of a status you join to a team and an organization makes a difference how your approach should be. You know, that you might be brought up as a leader to a very well-functioning team, then your focus needs to be mostly on people and understanding them and building partnership. But you might also be brought up as a leader to an organization that is dealing with a lot of risks or challenges, or maybe you are brought up to build a team from scratch. So I think all of these have a different flavors to be able to handle. So I think it is important to understand where the organization is, where your team is, and what is expected of you to be able to build a valid and successful strategy around that. And I always recommend everyone the first 90-day book as a guiding book for this, because it frames all of these different scenarios in a very successful way for you to be able to reflect your experience and navigate.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ishol. Thank you for that book recommendation as well. And last but not least, let's go to you, Dawn.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dawn Whitney. I am founder and CEO of my third company. I don't know what is happening, why I'm a serial entrepreneur, but I am. It's called Elevate X Leadership Collective. And I have known Lisa a long time. She probably knows this, but she is part of my board of directors. So I'm going to talk about that as well a little bit later. But I, as well as Angela, have been in the industry 30 years, healthcare technology. I had a healthcare staffing company that I started from my kitchen table in 2005, sold that company to another company that I went to work for as an employee for 3 years. And that was a great learning experience. And as you can imagine, I'm back to starting my third company. And so I've had a number of transitions as well. Since I am in the executive search space as a recruiter and also an executive coach, I want to speak a little bit about what I'm seeing the most that's happening within our job market right now and the transitions that are going on. The best piece of advice that I can give you, and all the ladies mentioned it here, but you definitely have to take a moment to sit in the 7 levels of grief that you're going to go through. You don't want to stay there. You want to move through them. And so that is a part of it, though. And I think you need to give yourself grace that you're in it. And maybe you don't have a job yet. Maybe you're thinking about going to another company, or you've been laid off in a restructure somewhere. Maybe you've been for 20 years and you don't know where to start. So I think going through the levels are really important. And I also think that it's really, really important that you have a board of directors, that you create one, especially outside of your industry, and you're working with them to build your personal brand. The personal brand is a biggie. So for me, sorry, that's 3, but they're all important, and we can talk more about it. But anyway, it's great to be here. Thank you for having me, Lisa.
Great. Thank you so much. Interested to hear more. Wonderful teasers there. So let's go ahead and want to get an overview of our audience here today. So we're going to do a poll. And MJ, if you could enable the poll about what is your current job situation? Are you planning to start looking for a job transition in the near future? in the process of looking and interviewing for a new job, recently started a new job, or happy in your current role, but you're interested in this topic? Okay, looks like we've had almost everybody respond to the poll. And we actually have a very great mix of just about some people in every category here. All right, do you want to show the results?
Yep, we're showing them right now. I put it up there so it will be visible as they came in.
Okay, excellent. All right, and then we have a second poll here to help our panelists know where to steer the things that they talk about. And the second question, second poll is, what aspect of a job transition are you most interested in? Strategies for finding my dream job, advice about how to approach the first 90 days, or hearing about lessons learned when transitioning into a new job? A lot of people want to hear about lessons learned. That's great. I think we're going to get a lot of that today. And I know Dawn was going to be speaking on strategies for finding your dream job. So, all right, that's great. So let's go ahead and jump in to our panelists giving an overview of their story and their journey. And we're going to do it in the same order that we did the introductions. So Angela, we'll start with you first.
Right, thank you. So as mentioned, I have about 30 years of experience in the industry and 4 positions. So, it was interesting. Somebody said and the majority, I think 40% said, I'm happy in my current role. So I spent 17 years at a company called CTG. That's a long time. And the majority of that time, I was in the same role. And the reason why I was satisfied in that role was because I had a lot of flexibility while I was raising my kids. I traveled a lot, but I could create my schedule so that I could do all the things I needed to do for my kids. And then I was making pretty darn good money in the role that I had. And so I got really comfortable. But as you can imagine, 17 years in one position is a long time. So I did decide to take a different role within the company toward the end of that 17-year career, and went from sales, account management, client partner work, working with the clients, being responsible for the clients and the work that we're doing, to more direct, hands-on delivery oversight of the teams that made me have to really become a subject matter expert in all the things that we did and get more technical. I didn't have a true technical background, even though I'd been working in technology for my whole career. So it was a difficult thing to do, but you just have to put yourself out there. You have to study a lot. You have to peer up with folks that you trust that are much smarter than you to be taught. And from that, when I ended up, we were going through some financial issues at the time. They were doing layoffs. They did offer me a role to go back to my old position, but I was ready to move on at that point. So I want to focus on the transition that probably was the biggest in my career. And that's when I went from more of a generalist healthcare technology firm, dabbling in a lot of different things, and moved to become the COO of a cybersecurity focused company, which, as you can imagine, is much more highly technical and a subject that was rapidly changing, rapidly growing. The cybersecurity industry at that time had so many companies starting up, and there was a much bigger focus on it. And the role that I had to play was a lot more operational. I had to have my hands in everything. And I can tell you that was my favorite job that I've ever had in my career. In my 30 years, that's the one that I can say I had the most fun. I learned so much. I studied a ton. I actually got my executive MBA at the time I was working there as well. So day job, COO, night job, getting my MBA. In between that, I still was, raising my kids, still going to college games with my son. It was a busy, busy time, but it was the funnest job because I had the opportunity to learn about the industry, become a bit of a subject matter expert, learn about all the different roles of a company. So it was an amazing transition. Now that company ended up, not doing so well under new CEO and leadership. I won't even go there. But now I've got that cybersecurity expertise under my belt. And so now I'm the co-leader of our cybersecurity practice here at my current company, Chartis. So my message really is, don't be afraid to go after things that you may not be the full expert at, but if you're a jack of all trades and you are willing to learn and really, open to diving into particular areas, there's a lot of value of, hiring people that are hungry, motivated, and want to be great leaders. Back to you, Lisa.
Wow, that was great, Angela. So inspiring. And I've known you for so long, and it was just great to hear parts of your story that I didn't really know. Garima, let's go to you.
Thank you, Lisa. My story is quite similar to Angela. I did whatever transition I did so far for my growth and take more challenges in the life. I'm the person who always like to take more challenges or new things on my plate. It keeps me motivated. When I joined Stanford, this was the one reason why I did and wanted to go into it different from the product company to the client side to learn that perspective. And I did great there and made so many relationships. But somehow at Stanford overall, at the SLAC and then the children's, I made myself in a comfort zone. I was doing great things and challenges in that job also grew in that area as well, got a couple of promotions there, but made myself in a comfort zone for a while, like, okay, whatever I'm doing. My son was going through college and all, so I had a lot of other things in the life going on. My son is 26 now, and he's an independent man working on his own. So after a while at Stanford, I said, I need to grow more and take more challenges in the life. And when I started thinking, there was a fear in my mind, what if the other job is not the same as I am? And it took a while to get out of that zone to even think that what I want to do. There was one thing inside me, take more challenge, go more, do something different. And there was one thing inside me, stay where you are, make this place much better and grow here only. So it was a hard decision. My family helped me into that. It's time now. It's the time at my age, if I do now or never do it. So I made myself, and what I did is I did my self-assessment first, where I stand, because when you are at one company, you don't know who you are at after working there. So I tried to understand my strength, weaknesses, the 360 review, which we used to do at Stanford very well. I had mentors in my life, like Lisa and Ed Kapetsky and a couple of others. Took their help, asked them, should I do it or not, and researched where I want to go, what I want to do. Should I go in consulting firm and have that challenge and take the traveling job, which I could at that time, or should I move in a major title growth and grow and manage much more? So I decided to look into the similar kind of organization as Stanford Healthcare and a little bit more. And I was lucky to get a lot of offers in my hand, and I decided to come to the UCSF. So what helped me here is doing the self-assessment, what I want to do and what my goal is. And that helped me. And that made me get out of my comfort zone as well. It was not easy decision. At least I took 6 months to decide and say yes to UCSF. So that was quite a bit. It was very challenging. Once I decided that, I started making my mindset. I started learning more about what UCSF does, what their challenges are, and started making that networking. And also planning my transition period, like how will I keep the network which I've built so far at Stanford, and I'm very close to that still. And you can all see that when Lisa called me to be on this panel, I immediately say yes, this closeness I have with these colleagues. So I decided what I want to do at UCSF and how I will transition. So it's not about getting out of a relationship, it's building more and add into your relationship area. So I added more, and that helped me. So it was very hard decision. What my advice is, get out of your comfort zone if you want to grow, and think who you are. Think once more what your strengths are and what skills you want to develop if you want to go more higher for the growth. There are other reasons which you also want to switch the job, is to learn much more than what you know. So your company may not give you everything what you want to learn in your life. So changing a job helps that, because you adopt all of the challenges and some new things and building up on your strengths. So that will be my major advice, which helped me to get out. And where I am today is because of those things. And this happened in all the transition. I was having a fear in my mind, what if it is involuntary or you get laid off, you have no choice and you get to go there. But when it's volunteer, that is very hard, and you really need to know yourself.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Garima. And I just have to say, I'm so proud of you, how you pushed yourself out of your comfort zone. And I know you were happy in your job at Stanford. And so to push yourself out of your comfort zone and get the job that you did, I'm just so proud of you. All right, let's go on to Christine.
Thank you. Prior to being the CTO at Alameda Health System, I mentioned I spent 24 years in my previous organization, which is Stanford Children's. I mean, actually across the Stanford Medicine. So I've done a lot of different positions, and I was able to grow quite a bit. I started with a programmer, and then I, was able to be in charge of the enterprise architecture of the Stanford Children's Hospital. So, but I wanted to do another push before, I think I have it in me. So I don't want to just wait, and maybe I will be the next step at Stanford Children's, maybe not, right? So we all, talked about we're in the industry, for 30 years or so. So I don't want to wait. So so the opportunity came, and I interviewed for the CTO position at Alameda. So I had an opportunity, actually met with most of the executive team at the Alameda Health System. One of the questions was presented to me, was that, given how different the two organizations, even though they're, location-wise, they're close by, 20 miles away. One is the academic, right, organization. The other is a safety net, county, public health system. Mission, population served are very different. How confident I was that my experience will translate. So that actually, the translate came from that question. And of course I said I was very confident in the interview. But afterwards, I'm like, okay, I wanted to do something to, like what Garima mentioned, things like that. I wanted to take what I know, who I am, and all the feedback from 360, from the others along the way. I believe this is me, this is my brand, that I wanted to map it out to say that, hey, it's like, how can I translate? And of course, a lot of the work has to be done after I started the job because I need to know the company. So first I said that, hey, those are the things that are constant for me when what I need to bring over. This is me. So like, for the folks who know me as a leader, that, my team is the most valuable asset for me. So I wanted to, be true to my brand, let them know my brand, and then invest time with them and then build the trust. So that's like most important thing. And I want them to know my key principles, how I run my shop, right? And then just everyone knows you need to build your reputation from ground up when you go to a new organization. So nothing is too small. You just have to, keep your value centers. Um, and then it is really invest time to learn the organization. I think it's touched upon already multiple times. So talk to all levels, take notes, identify common thread, pain points that will help you to build that long-term and short-term plan. It's not coming from my previous experience. It's how I learn from talking and assess with the people in Alameda House. And then also I think was talked about is the board of directors. It was so true, Don. So that really helped me, to bounce the ideas, give me feedbacks and everything. It doesn't need to be just in that organization. I also think that you always need to align with your manager along the way, so that you're never gonna get into a situation that you're developing, you think it's the best for the organization, but absolutely it's not the plan, right? So align with your manager all the time. I would say never assume also, because I have some Alameda Health System folks, IT folks here. One of the things I look back, I wish I will take a different priority on is some of the projects I assumed because I did it at Stanford. It was very beneficial. And I'm just like, well, let's do it. So and I realized how much the history, the workflow, why it's being done. So that is absolutely lessons learned, right? So now, like moving forward, I know my folks appreciate it, is that I always say, why we did this way? Maybe it's not the right way, but you have to ask. There's a reason. There's multiple reasons. And then for me, I also think like I just gonna be very open. Gotta watch out that imposter syndrome, So that kind of creep up on me at certain times because I was like, okay. I mean, actually, my CIO called me. Is like, you look nervous, and then you you kind of giggle a little bit, right? So because you're on a meeting with 200 people or 100 people, nobody know you. You don't have the reputation. You're just so afraid to make mistakes. So I think we just, all gonna be real, and then you're gonna catch it, and then so you can address it. And also the last thing I would say is, you gotta also know how to measure your success, what you achieved. So I'm gonna give a quick example. So I took on biomed, which is not my area prior, right? And my leader said that I spent 25% of my time prior to arrive just to manage the escalations of biomed business, okay, because it was not run well. It was not run well. So I talked to some of my board of directors, and I said, of course there's statistics and dashboards, and it's like, how do I measure if I actually doing a good job with an area I'm not familiar with? So she actually told me, she's like, if your boss said he's getting so many calls and emails, and then like cost so much of his time, just ask him, what does it look like now? So I did. So a year after I arrived, right, we start to improve. Now he said that he has not got any escalations for more than a year now, right? So in addition to the statistics, there's other things you need to pat your shoulders, you need to evaluate, you need to reach out to give yourself the credit. So I think along the way, you need to pick up those things, and I think you will be positive and then keep, reinforce it. So mine is the story is a little bit more detailed and specific, but that's my story.
Thank you, Christine. It's been a pleasure to see you grow and thrive in your role that you're currently in. Congratulations on that. And now let's go to Ishel.
All right. Well, I'm so glad to be in this panel because stuff that I'm hearing is also helping me because I feel in the imposter syndrome zone right now, especially in my time, like in the 4th month. This is the 1st month that I'm in this position. But just to give like an overview of my journey, I want to start a little bit earlier because I'm a firm believer that situations are different for people. We don't really seek for the same things, and not everybody is the same from a career goal perspective or life goals perspective. So I think in a career change, it is really important to understand what is your ultimate career motivation. I'm not going to even say goal because I don't want us to think like roles and titles and stuff. Like what excites you from a career perspective until the day you retire. What is really important to you? What makes you feel excited about your job and your life? So that's why I started. I love learning new things, and I think and Lisa is my previous boss, so she will remember that we used to have these conversations of like what is next, and always like I look for new areas to learn regardless if it brings a title or not. And I think just before the pandemic, I was kind of, okay, I'm very comfortable in my role. And to Karima's point, I didn't want to be so comfortable. I wanted to be challenged and I wanted to learn new things. But sometimes you just need to be careful what you wish, because when I asked for a new challenge, the universe threw a pandemic. And that was definitely a huge challenge because I was leading the ambulatory and portals team in the Stanford Children's at that time, and majority of the IT work that involved, outdoor testing and vaccination and all that fell into my plate. So while it was a very stressful time for all of us personally and professionally, I found that it was a great learning opportunity for me because, like, you end up learning how to manage a global crisis and how we can contribute. But after the pandemic went away, I started to think about, okay, well, that was done, and now what? And because I love learning about new things, I wanted to set a goal for myself. And one of the goals that I set about a year ago, before I made my transition to the new career, is that 1 year from now, I should be doing something different and learning something different. That was the ultimate goal that I set, and we even talked about it. So with that, I started to look like what is something that excites me. And coming from a clinical background, I was looking for something that actually connects the other domains in healthcare for a complete experience from a healthcare perspective to enrich my learning and understanding of the world. So I started to look just for almost like a window shopping to different positions and different organizations to just understand what is out there and what appeals to me. And with and similar to what Garima is describing, what are my strengths, what excites me, and what opportunities out there. So purely a research kind of exercise. And I realized really managing applications and clinical side of the healthcare IT world is where my heart lies, and to be able to expand my domain was what I wanted to do. So I applied when I saw an opportunity for that position and ended up getting it. So now in the new position, like many of you already mentioned, it is different, especially if you work in an organization. You can do your job with your eyes closed, and then all of a sudden you are in this new environment. You don't know anybody. You don't know the history behind things. The organization is new. So I think it just requires to be a very good listener and observer for a while. And especially if you're not brought in a crisis situation, like a startup and trying to kind of just going and running with work, you need to be really very patient and learn to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And that is a tough thing, especially if you're coming from a comfort zone of knowing everyone, knowing the history of everything for a decade or more. Now you're in a constant, like in every meeting, you're observing, but you can only like really absorb half of the stuff that is being said to me in that meeting because you don't have the history. So you have to do a lot of follow-up conversations, talk to people. So I guess like it's just a very humbling experience because you just need to, you know, take everything one level down and not feel bad about asking questions. And sometimes it is tough. That's what it takes you to the imposter zone, right? Because you're not used to asking a million questions to understand something in your previous role. You're kind of like, oh, like I know what to do and exactly what to do by the time in the 10th meeting in a meeting before. And now you're in this position, the meeting is over and you still have like so many unknowns that you have to go and find out. One thing that I found was very helpful to me was to be very deliberately build that knowledge in the new position. So I reached out to, I started with my immediate circle, like all my team members, and then, you know, extended team members, and then major teams that my team works with and their leadership, and scheduled sessions to like understand their perspective, their priorities, their challenges. That kind of almost like an exercise. You have this blank slate and you start to like form little dots. And over time, by learning things from different people, you start to connect the dots, and then an image or like a view emerges. So I think that is where we all need to be very patient, because before we can have very incomplete assumptions if we only have like one pieces of the picture. So I think a new position, especially after a long time in a comfort zone, requires a lot of patience and a lot of self-coaching. There are days that I kind of, at the end of the day, I feel like, did I really, you know, contributed today, or what did I learn today? And some days you feel better and some days you don't feel that good. And it's kind of like a matter of like self-coaching yourself. This is a phase, and, you know, it's going to go away. And to be honest, I think there's a magic to that 90-day, because after 3 months, all of a sudden you feel like, okay, I know what's going on now. So I feel a little bit better. So definitely be patient, and also be brave, and also be very open and humble, because I think you will, a lot of people appreciate that.
Thank you so much, Ishal. And I know you said the jury's still out on whether your transition was successful or not, but it sure seems to me like if it's not considered successful yet, you're right on the right track with it. So Dawn, let's go to you.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for all of these great ideas that everyone is contributing. So I'll give you a quick overview. Early in my career, I think in my late 20s, actually, I don't even think you know this story, Lisa. I was really interested in technology. So I went to go work for a company called Sequent Computer Systems. I don't know if anyone's even heard of them, but they were bought by IBM. And I was learning networking and servers and routers. And I was the only woman in the room with all the engineers and trying to figure all the switches and all the things out. And I quickly realized that although I love technology, it was not my calling. So they moved me into HR, which was a great move. And I really just fell in love with technology, but I also fell in love with just serving others, working with the company to find the right candidates and bring the right people into the organization who could make the right changes to really elevate the company. And that's really where all of it started. Then I went to go work for a company pre-IPO, which was an honor, and we went public, and that was a wonderful event for many of us that had started there. That company was bought subsequently after that by Kforce. And at that point, I chose to make a transition out of the company prior to the merger. And it was the best decision that I could have ever made. I just knew that I wanted to do something on my own, and I wanted to take all the things that worked really well at the company that I had worked for. And then I wanted to take the things that I was watching that were happening and make some adjustments in my own culture so that I had a different approach. So that company, as I mentioned earlier, I launched in 2005 and everything was going great. And I think I had 33, 34 employees at one point, and we had over 200 consultants billing. Business was great, contract, direct hire, executive search, all of that. And my CFO said, hey, you know what? You know everybody in technology, in healthcare, and you have all these doors that you've had opened with CIOs. Have you thought about starting a travel nurse company? And I'm like, I should have taken a moment and said, actually, no, I know nothing about travel nursing, and I'm not going to be talking to the same people. But I thought it was a great idea. And I looked at some companies to buy. And at the end of the day, I decided that I wanted to just start my own company. So I started that. I don't even know if you knew that, Lisa, but I started that company, and it was a colossal fail the first year. We lost a ton of money. Second year, we broke even. So that was huge. Third year, we started making some money. Fourth year, we were doing really well. I decided to sell the company because it really wasn't my passion. And at the same time, I was running the other company. So lesson, everyone, don't think that you can be a CEO for two companies at the same time. It doesn't work. And so all of the things, all of the wonderful lessons that I learned were from the failures, as always in life, right? Of that job and that transition. We have to pay attention when it's happening. A lot of times we're in the moment and we're just like, oh, how do I get out of this? But you have to stop and just say, you know what? Thank you, universe, for giving me this horrific opportunity to grow and to make some shifts in the way I'm thinking about things, because I'm learning. So here's the kicker. I sold the company to a company in Kansas City, and about 6 months later, COVID hit. Now, I don't think I have to, yeah, exactly. Christine's laughing. I don't have to tell you all what a disaster that was. That I looked at my husband and he was like, why did we decide to sell this company again? We just missed the biggest opportunity for you to expand your business in travel nursing. So, but we can't look back, right? We got to look forward. So I decided, that I kind of wanted to get off the hamster wheel. So I looked for an organization that did something different than I did. And I went after several companies. I sent letters to all the CEOs and presidents of these companies that were in the RPO space. And I targeted several of them. I spoke with several of them. And then I ended up landing at a company called Level Up. I came into Level Up, sold my company to them, brought my employees, brought my customers. I see Kevin on here. He's one of my customers from Alameda. And I started, I ran the global sales on the healthcare side there. And I was an executive leader at the table with, really at a great opportunity to learn and grow. And for me, it was such a hard transition, having owned my own company and really being kind of like this, this risk taker. And now I'm not calling the shots. And I have to say that that's when you really have to check yourself and realize, am I doing this because I'm focused on my ego, or am I doing this because I really truly want to learn and grow and serve? And I had to take a pause and say, you know what, Dawn, this is another opportunity for you to learn. And so it's all about being present and in the moment. I felt like I'd learned enough in 3 years. It was definitely time to go, and when it's time to go. And I feel like I left that company. We always want to be able to say this, but I feel like I left that company, the culture and the clients, better than I found it. And so if I can feel good about that, I know that I was onto something. I transitioned, I think the same thing that we're all talking about here. I transitioned actually without a job. I left and said, you know what? It's been wonderful. I've been honored to be here, and it's time to go. And I think I took a week off, maybe, Lisa, and then I messaged you and I was like, guess what? I'm starting another company. Shocker. This time it's a little bit different, right? With the coaching and all of that. But I would say, just in summary, that having a solid board of directors or a circle of influence at any, I mean, whoever's listening, if you are in your 20s, 30s, 40s, I mean, even if you're in your 50s, you've got to get one. If you don't have one, get one and pull together people who you're going to pull people together that are like-minded, but pull together people who are not, and people who can challenge you a little bit, and people that are maybe not in your industry or not doing exactly the same job as you. Those are the best people. They're your people that think about you and speak about you when you're not in the room. And those are the people that you want on your board of directors, right? And you can go to them and say, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think? Or, hey, I'm having a challenge over here with this organization. I need some guidance. That, I think, is probably my most key piece of transitioning and building that personal brand where you are actually, oh, somebody did a bullseye. I love that. When you are actually looking at your LinkedIn, I mean, I'm just going to say this very clearly. And if you don't think that you need to have a personal brand on LinkedIn, you need to think again. If you have 200 followers, get it up. You need to be putting good content out that is good content that is helping others, supporting others, lifting others, but it has to be good content. And people will start following you because we want to follow people and we want to be around people who have good energy, who are putting out a good light into this world, into this universe. So your purpose of building a personal brand is to actually find those people, get them into your circle, you get into their circle so you can support them. And before you know it, you're building this brand. And then when you're looking for a job, statistically, I can tell you as a recruiter for 30 years, your next job is in your network or in your network's network. 100%. It is not applying to jobs online. It is not sending out a bunch of applications. It's just not. So I love to work with candidates who are in this period and they need this transition assistance because I have a lot of experience doing it and I love it. I just love helping people find jobs. It's the best part of my life, honestly. So anyway, that's my story.
Thank you, Dawn. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
What an impressive career you've had. And sounds like fabulous things to come in your future as well. And I am honored that you consider me part of your board of directors. I do with you as well. Okay. How was that, everybody? I'm hoping you all learned and hoping that you have some questions or comments. And I'm loving the little emoji things, reactions that fly up. Oh, that's fun. All right. So if we can go ahead, MJ, and take people off of mute, you can, if you would like, go into the Q&A section here, or go ahead and come off mute. And what questions do you have for our panelists? You know, one of the things that I was wondering is there something that you wish you either had or hadn't done during your initial weeks of transition? And I know, Ishil, you're still early on in that. But is there anything along that initial period is so critical, and all of you spoke to, that getting out of your comfort zone and having some fear, having some anxiety, worrying about will you be successful or not. Anything that you'd like to share with the group about what what either you did or you didn't do that you wish you would have?
I can share something.
Go ahead, Garima.
Go ahead.
Start
Garima.
with you.
So one thing I wish I had done much better to understand the new job and processes rather than just assuming some things, rather than assuming, just conform and understand more in the initial day, because you don't want to ask too many questions. You have that thing in your thing. If you ask too many questions, people will think you don't know, but ask as much question as you can. It's nothing that stops you asking. I wish I had asked more question versus assuming some things. You become zero when you go into the job, and then take your strength to get to it and early wins and set the expectation. But I wish I would have done more understanding and asking more question versus assuming.
Yeah, that's great. I always think through all the years of hiring people, I get worried when I hire someone and they're not asking questions because I think, they can't possibly know everything, and that's not an expectation I have that they do. So I love it when people are new
Yeah.
and asking lots of questions. Ishil, did you want
I
to
think
make
mine is, yeah, I think mine is kind of similar, but maybe differs from like what is the need. So one of the things that I discovered that didn't really work out well for me, and I changed this in the past month or so, which I felt like a huge difference, right? I'm a very self-sufficient person, and I do not like to be a burden on others. So to Garima's point, you ask questions, but then, especially if you're like me, there is a point that you feel like, like maybe I'm just being too much burden or taking so much time, like by asking questions, so I can try to be self-sufficient. And there's a fine line to it, right? Because if you try to be self-sufficient and go try to read everything, there's really like a danger of like not capturing the essence or the latest information or any kind of like unwritten, status of things. So initially I took a path of like, while having these deliberate one-to-ones and sessions, I was also trying to kind of like, well, give me this SharePoint or box link, and I like try to kind of absorb every information. And I soon realized that is not a possible task. Like, there's no way I'm going to be able to get a brain transplant by just looking at a bunch of documents. And especially if the organization and the teams are large, it was kind of like an impossible task. And there is a point that it starts to overwhelm you so much, then I think that is the one that kind of like kicks you down into the deeper pits of imposter syndrome, because you feel like you cannot retain all of that information. So what I did is that I actually turned things around a little bit, and I'm picking, if there's an area that I really feel like I need to have a deeper understanding, I actually pick the best person to have that understanding and schedule some time with them. It serves two purposes. One, it allows me to get the summary and unwritten summary, like from a person, and it also helps me to build a personal connection with that person. So it gives them an opportunity to know me and my style better. It gives me an opportunity to get to know them better. So I found that it worked much better than me trying to be self-sufficient, so not to be a burden on people and try to go discover things on my own. So that's my suggestion. Like, try to also get details from people that allow you to both build personal connections and a deeper understanding.
And the great thing about asking questions, they say that like socially, when you're at parties and things, don't be the person doing all the talking, right? The way you go up to somebody and you create those relationships is asking about them. So that's also the benefit of making great connections with people that end up turning into long-term relationships, is ask about them, ask what they know, ask what they're working on, what interests them. Especially when I moved into cybersecurity, I didn't know much. And so I asked a lot of questions, and I was very humble, and I said, hey, I know I don't know much, but can you please help? And people like to help. And so I think if you make them feel great and knowledgeable and like they're the experts, they're automatically going to want to help you. And that
Yeah,
creates those
exactly.
relationships that Dawn's talking about that you need later on as you progress in your career and need to find that next position.
Yes, so good. I'll just add one thing. I wish that I had some great mentors, but I wish that I had really reached out more in the early part of my career and asked for more people to give me feedback and to help me. I also think that, you know, there was just, unfortunately, sometimes there's this feeling of like scarcity, right? Like everybody's trying to get a seat at the table. Everybody's trying to get moved up. Everybody's trying to kind of, you know, you've been in organizations where people are trying to get to the next space and maybe they're climbing up over one another to get to where they need to be. And I just really feel like I learned this. I'm in my late 50s and I wish I had learned this much sooner, is that you lift as you climb, right? You lift as you climb and you pull people forward with you, whether that's women or men. You know, that's the most important thing that I think we forget sometimes, is that we're just so focused on getting to where we want to go and what we need to do that we're not thinking about that person that's sitting in the room that maybe feels the same way that you do, but they're afraid to speak up, right? And if you go over to them after the meeting and say, hey, I know you felt this way, you know, what happened? What did you feel like you couldn't speak? And I have had these situations happen, and on an executive leadership team, I remember a certain incident that happened, and I knew exactly how the other women felt, and I was the only one that spoke up. And so I would really encourage you, whether you're a female executive or you're aspiring to be a leader as a female, or you're a man. I mean, men do this as well. You have to find the opportunity to speak up and say, hey, I have a thought, I have an idea. And don't be afraid that someone's going to look at you and say, oh, what's this person? Why is this person standing up and saying anything? You know? So speaking up is really, really key. And I wish somebody had said, Dawn, you should speak up. Now I speak up all the time, which is why I'm running my own business again, ladies. So there you go.
Great. We just have a minute left here, but I wanted to throw this question out that's in the Q&A to see if anyone has a quick comment to make. And that was, how did you make the leap to leadership? And how do you know executive leadership was for you? Like, how did you know that was right for you?
I can start that, you know, by coming out of as a fresh graduate and working as a programmer and developer in it. I didn't know I will be ever become a leader. But when I started working in a couple of areas, and there was a situation when it comes, I was not managing a group, but there was a situation which made me to manage that particular issue to give up to our clients. It gave me a confidence that I can manage, I can put the strategy together. If I can solve a problem, that means I can do some management, I can coach, and I can get people towards a goal. And I felt that strength in me. And then I started taking some of the coaching and made some mentors after that who could coach me, my bosses, and a couple of other people who manages people, and learn a lot of things. And I tried to put my resume and build my personal profile as a leader to get my new job and promotion as a leader. So that was one of the instances which inspired me. Hey, I am more than that. I'm not just a coder or developer. I can manage. I can put a strategy together.
Wow. Yep. That's great. Yeah, I agree. Put yourself out there. You know, say yes to opportunities. We've heard a lot about, you know, going out of your comfort zone. Well, we are out of time here. We do have a next session coming up in our Ask an Industry Leader series, and it is going to be on Friday, September 27th at 12 noon Pacific time. And it's on utilizing AI to enhance work effectiveness. So super excited about that topic, something that is applicable to all of us in today's working world. So hope you will be able to join us for that. And once again, on behalf of all of us from Women in Healthcare IT, have a wonderful rest of your day and a wonderful rest of your summer. And thank you once again to our panelists.
Yay.
Yay. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you for having us.